Hey folks, welcome to what is going to be episode 7 of the Deeply Devoted podcast. This is a ministry of the E-Free Church of Bemidji, Minnesota. My name is Eric, and I am one of the pastors on staff here at E-Free Bemidji. And really, before I get into this particular episode, I just want to give a thank you. Even in the last week or two, I've had a number of people mention that they've been listening to this podcast, that they've been encouraged by it. And that's exactly what I wanted to happen with this thing. I know we're only 7 episodes in. We're not very far. But if this is serving our church family, if it's blessing people and encouraging people, then we must be doing something right. So I just wanted to say a quick thank you to all of you who are listening. Feel free to share it with others in the church. Ask them as well if they've listened. We've got a lot of good episodes under our belt so far. But in this episode, we are literally coming right off the heels of our 100th anniversary celebration. We talked a little bit in the last episode about anticipating it. Now we're on the other side. We're recording this on Monday, so really less than 24 hours later. And so my guest today is Laura Helweg. I invited Laura to come. She was on our, maybe I can say was now because it's done, our 100th anniversary celebration planning team. And she has been a part of the E-Free Bemidji church family for a number of years. So, Laura, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. It's great to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun. I knew that I wanted to get Laura on this podcast a while ago, and I didn't know it in what context, but I figured this would be fun to chat with you, Laura. So,
yeah.
I was thinking about this in our 100th anniversary, and I kind of came even into the committee a little bit late. Some of you guys really started in this way back. I don't even know. When did we start? February, March, something like that? Probably when the first meeting was.
See, I came in late too.
Okay.
So I have no idea.
Okay.
They've been working a lot longer than we have. So.
I don't think we tallied the hours, but it certainly was worth it, and it paid off, and it was just an incredible celebration. But, each week I've been asking people on this podcast in one way or another just about how you came to this church, how you became a part of this church family. But you're in a little bit more of a unique situation, Laura. You want to tell us how long you've been a part of the church family? And then with that, maybe what's just one of your earliest memories of being a part of this church?
Yeah, I guess you could say I was born in the church, although technically not. My parents, Chris and Tracy Parthen, they started attending in late 1984, early 1985. I'd have to double check with pictures. When I was just a baby. So the first photo I have of me in the church was when Pastor Fred dedicated my sister in 1985. He was rocking a really great mustache.
That's a picture we need to see. Yeah.
It's great. I almost wanted to submit it, but there were also a lot of other great pictures of Fred in that era. One of the earliest memories of the church would be when we were in the building on Washington Avenue. I was little, but I recall the sanctuary. In my eyes, it was a huge, long room. But of course, looking at pictures now, it really wasn't that big. But I can also remember the nursery with its shelf full of plastic toy tubs. Otherwise, I have clear memories of when the new building was being built here on Carr Lake.
It's funny to hear people still refer to the building as the new building. Which I guess that's relatively speaking, but it's fun to hear a little of that history of folks that were not in this location before and still even refer to this as the new building.
Yeah, I guess I was like 5 when we moved over here. So to me, this is the original building, but to a lot of other people, it isn't. So it is really fascinating to hear that.
Yeah. Well, again, we've been working hard on this 100th anniversary, and I know that a lot of people were blessed by it. I imagine especially some of the long-timers that came back, some folks that came from out of town. But really, Laura, just after months of planning, we just had this incredible weekend celebrating this anniversary. But I don't even know who came up with it, but at some point, someone on the committee, or maybe it was a team effort, came up with this idea of the 3 R's here. This remember, reconnect, and recommit. And we were talking about that all weekend, and in each event played a little bit different role in one of those phases. But Laura, how do you think we accomplished that goal to remember, reconnect, and recommit this weekend?
I think all the events really had a part to play. And I really think we nailed all of it. Those 3 words, I wasn't on the committee when they decided. It must have been early March before. They just did an amazing job, and they were so crucial. And I could see the care and the purposefulness that went into planning each of the events throughout the whole weekend. And all of them really fit into that motto. Though also, I think I'd add celebrate and witness to those, especially in regards to the Saturday community event.
Yeah. Celebrate would be a good word. And I found myself anytime I was in front of a microphone this weekend saying, boy, we are celebrating. And I think I even told somebody yesterday, and I probably said it a couple times this weekend, it really felt almost like a family reunion.
It was.
Which for me, not being here that long, I think I said this to somebody yesterday, or I said it to the group. It felt like when you go to a family reunion and you meet those cousins that you've never met before, but you know that they exist on your family tree, which is really kind of a neat experience there. I
could totally see how it would be like that for you. But for me, it was like seeing old mentors and, old leaders and friends and peers, everyone coming back. And it felt like the era of the church that I recall as a kid.
Wow.
But it was still merged with the era that I know, which is right now. So it was a really cool, kind of surreal feeling.
Yeah.
Very family and group oriented. It was wonderful.
Well, and that's what you hope is true of a local church, that it does have that family feel.
Yeah.
And you can't manufacture that. You can't force it. It just sort of happens here. And so I think back between starting Thursday evening when we had our Global Partners Night, and then we moved into Friday. Friday was such a special evening as well. And we had this big Through the Decades event. Again, I don't know who thought of this or if this was the collective wisdom, but what a great idea to think through that. But part of that program Friday night, you got to be part of that. You got to be up on stage in front of all those eyeballs. And you were sitting up there on stage with some really key people from our church's past. How did that feel, Laura, to be part of that panel?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I said in my short message on stage, but it was such a weird yet cool moment. Most of the people on that stage have been so influential in my life. They were my teachers, my mentors, my missionaries, my pastors, people I've looked up to since I was tiny. So it was really surreal to be up there sharing alongside of them. I'm still kind of like, wow about it, and a little goosebumpy, and
Yeah. No, well, you did great. And it was a great part of that evening. And again, just, there were a couple of people up there that I'd heard those names, but I'd not yet met them. And it was fun to kind of connect those dots. But even someone like you, just to say, okay, well, I know Laura, and she was able to connect the dots with this person and say, okay, I can see a little bit of my church family tree in this.
Yeah,
so
that's a great way to look at it.
Yeah,
cool.
I was really encouraged by that, and it was a lot of fun. But maybe the big takeaway, I know we listened to everything you said, Laura, the other night, but I heard a few people here. You shared a particularly humorous memory Friday night, and if you weren't with us Friday night, I would recommend. We did live stream it, so it is on our church website. You can go back and watch the whole service. There were so many great parts of that. But Laura, you shared a particularly humorous memory. Do you mind kind of recounting that for those that weren't there?
Yeah, I sure can. It's kind of a secret I've kept hidden, and I wasn't even sure I'd include it on Friday night until I was literally in the car on the way there. I'm like writing it down, and something told me to end with it. So then when I arrive, I find out I was the last panel member before Pastor Fred spoke. So nice. I knew it was meant to be.
Yeah.
Maybe even God ordained it. But the memory is I grew up spending so much time in this church. And when I talk about this church, I mean the Car Lake Church. So it became a second home. Between choir practices, Wednesday night kids club, handbells, Sunday mornings White Cross, other various activities, I knew this building inside and out. And kids being kids, I would often be in the sanctuary pretending to preach, like Pastor Fred up in the pulpit. And some of you may know that he kept a glass of water inside the pulpit in case he needed it when he was speaking. And well, sometimes I'd get thirsty and I'd drink out of his water glass.
that moment when you shared that, the room just kind of erupted in laughter.
I know.
And then if you go back to the video, watch Pastor Fred's face when that light bulb goes off. And he's got such a great sense of humor.
Yes.
But that was just fun. And I think even beyond the funny part of that, I just think what a kind of a precious memory that you have from childhood or from, being a kid, that you felt so comfortable in this building, which, so as a pastor, my kids have literally grown up in a church.
Yep.
And sometimes, they run around when they were little and bare feet and, this was their church building was their second home. But it's just kind of neat to see that. And yes, we have some sacred spaces, the sanctuary. I don't want to treat it like a gymnasium.
Yes.
And yet at the same time, there's something precious about that children especially feel this is my space. It's just like my house a little bit. And they feel comfortable. So I thought that was not only a particularly funny memory, but it kind of really illustrated that. Yeah.
I was just so glad Pastor Fred laughed. So that's all I can say about that.
Well, all those eyeballs on him, maybe he had to. But,
I don't know. I have to go back and watch it, but from my vantage point right next to me, he was busting up. So I was very thankful.
Yeah. As I get to know him, I really do appreciate his sense of humor there.
Yes.
But boy, even speaking of pastors, Laura, it can be hard for people to get to know their pastors in a meaningful way. I'm not really sure why that is. Sometimes I don't think we tend to project ourselves as higher and mightier or holier or something like that. But I remember even in the church that I grew up in, we had a few pastors, and they were nice guys, but I cannot say that I had any sort of meaningful relationship with them. I didn't know them, and they really didn't know me, at least not until I got older. But that doesn't seem to be the case with you, and not just you, but with a lot of people around here. I hope that we're approachable. I hope that we're down to earth. But Laura, what's been your experience getting to know our pastors over the years?
So I still remember the first time I tried to talk to Pastor Fred about something more serious, like a deep Bible question. I had at age 11. I knew him as my pastor, and that was a bit serious, kind of intimidating. I mean, he was stern in the pulpit sometimes.
Yeah.
But he was also my friend Charlotte's dad, and that made him less scary and a little bit more approachable. So one time, nervously, I stammered out my question as he chaperoned a youth bike trip at Itasca State Park. And he answered it with such kindness and ease, I forgot to be nervous at all. And after that, I think I probably inundated him with questions, especially in my young adult years as I took all of his free church connection classes.
Yeah.
But going back to your question, I think pastors really need to be approachable. And one of the best ways to do that is to build relationships with their congregation. My heart always warms on Sunday mornings when I see Pastor Jerry going around before the service, shaking hands and greeting people by name. He knows them all. He recognizes them. Always got a smile.
Yeah.
And with youth, that's even more important. To be able to say, "Hey, Jaden, it's great to see you here. How'd your basketball game go on Friday?" It's incredible to a teen and even an adult. But of course, it works both ways. I really want to feel like I know my pastors, their families, and their lives. Not only does it make you guys seem more human, but it builds trust and friendship, which is something invaluable, especially because you're our spiritual mentors and you are really going to be the ones to feed into our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny just to kind of be on the other side of that. And even when somebody addresses me as Pastor Eric, that feels very formal to me. And I appreciate the respect that's being conveyed there.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'll just say, you can call me by my first name. It's okay. Even with teens and young people, I do appreciate the respect, and I don't want to undermine that. But boy, I would rather have that rapport and relationship. And I would agree. It's again, you can't fake it, especially with teenagers. You've got to be genuine, and not just as a parent, but even working with students.
Yeah, and they just want someone to spend time with them and really care and, ask valuable questions, not just how is it going, how is school? They really just want that. And I think as adults, we need that too. We just kind of hide it better.
Yeah, yeah. That even teens want to get beyond the small talk of the day-to-day.
Yep.
But to want to have that back and forth a little bit. So I guess if any of our young people, our teens are listening to this, I would love to get some of our students on this podcast someday and get their perspective on things. So
there's so many that would be great at it.
I know. And some great. I worry that some of them, it might be a long episode that they would be willing to talk a little too much, but I'd rather have that than too little.
A two-parter.
No, it'll be good. It'll be good.
Yep.
Thinking through even some more of the events of this weekend, even back to Friday night, this Through the Decades night, Robin Hewitt in her kind of classic form had a trivia game for us. But even that, it wasn't just this silly, fun game. It was meaningful. And I was surprised by just even how that impacted me. And one of the questions was, can you think of, how did she say it? Something like, can you come up with 3 families of 3 generations or more? And then she started to list them. And I was not shocked, but impacted by how many of these, at least 3 and even some 4 generation families are part of our church and still part of our church. Now, that describes you and your family. Laura, what does it mean to you to be a part of that kind of family legacy, and just even as a parent, that your kids are now not just coming to our church, but are active as part of our church?
Yeah. So first, can I say I was blown away by when she started naming off. I just thought, a couple of them.
Right.
I didn't even count myself in it for whatever reason. So it was really powerful. I love that she did that. And it's really a blessing to me, and it's one I don't take lightly. I thought about it a lot, but as this weekend comes around, it's been on my mind even more. I'm really thankful for the strong biblical foundation of teaching I've gotten in this church, and a lot of it is due to Pastor Fred because he was here, at that point. But all from like age 1 to 40, it's all been phenomenal. All the different teachers, everyone that has fed into my life, it's just been awesome. So to be able to give that to my children, to grow up learning from the same mentors and to be part of the same church body with a lot of the same people that have been such a deep part of my life, it's something that I can't even express into words how much it means to me. And in my heart, this church has been home for so long and my kids get to grow up here. So it brings a whole new level of depth to that feeling of church home. It's really hard to describe, but it's just incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. And not everybody has that, just for reasons like you have a move or a job pulls you into a new community, things like that. So not everybody gets to stay in the general community they grew up in. And who knows? I don't want to say that your kids are all going to move away and things like that. No. And we were even joking yesterday. I was teasing Laura a little bit that maybe one of her kids needs to be on the 125th planning committee.
I already told my kids they're.
Okay. So sorry, Helweg kids. One of you has a job already. So,
there we go.
So get working on that.
Yes.
But it's fun to see that. And even as a pastor, as I started to connect some of those, this person is related to this person.
Yes.
And they go with this family and things like that.
Yeah. It's a lot of extended family and friends and a lot of pieces put together. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things that's true of your family, which is true of a lot of families in this church, but that music and the music ministry has been a really big part of your family's life and our church. And maybe you could talk about some of those examples, but even more, just why do you think music ministry has such a rich history at this church?
So for those who don't know, I talked about this too in the Friday night. You can go back and live stream it. But as a Parthen, we're connected to the handbell choir. My parents donated the first 2 octaves for the handbell choir back in 96 in memory of my little sister, Rebecca, who died young. So that's our tie to the music ministry. But we've also had other ties to the music ministry. I think my parents had been in choir. Yeah. Oh, I don't know, the 80s, probably when they first joined. And then also handbells, and then all kinds of other special music, singing, lots of other ways. But I think the music ministry at our church is so blessed because we've had people, and I'm going to name a couple here, like Roger Anderson, Ken Wold, Laura Inglestead, Judy Emery, Jason Robeck, so many others participating. And they're not just participating, but they're inspiring, and they're teaching others, and they're drawing them in alongside and worshiping God in so many forms. They're really making it beautiful and meaningful in different ways for different people. And that's exactly the magic of music, offering different mediums for God's people to be able to praise him. Yeah.
Yeah. And, I suppose you expect that a church is going to have a choir or, a worship team. Maybe not all of them have a handbell choir or are lucky enough to have that.
True.
But you expect obviously some level of music. Yep. But it's a music ministry, and I would agree with you. We've got all kinds of folks that are part of this, but that really see it as a ministry.
Yeah, the level of passion that they have, and that it's you can't really put it into words unless you're part of that ministry, or you kind of hijack a practice one time and you see how excited and motivated and how God works in them. It's incredible.
Yeah. And I've observed that from the sidelines a little bit too, whether it's me on a Tuesday that I see the handbell choir, in our Connection Cafe practicing, but they're doing much more than just practicing their next piece. Yeah. There's a community, there's a camaraderie there. And that's the same thing with our choir on a Tuesday night, or our worship teams that, these aren't people that are just singing songs or playing instruments. And so, it's exciting to just see that, and just how that's been a part of your families, and just even into the next generation. I've seen that even in the youth ministry.
Yeah, it's so fun to see that.
Yeah, and it's so that music bug must be on your side of the family tree.
Yeah,
yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, again, we're literally only a day after, so I don't know if we're ready to fully debrief. Even our team yesterday was, you could tell, tired and not ready for a full debrief yet. Maybe we'll make some notes and things like that.
Yeah.
But let's just say hypothetically, Laura, that 25 years from now, you're at least consulted. You're brought on to this next planning committee for our 125th. Should the Lord allow this church to keep doing ministry, not just about the celebration, but really, what do you hope is still true of this church even 25 years from now?
Yeah, so I may as well say it. I'm going to be part of that committee if I can.
Okay, you're on record.
If I'm here in 25 years, I'm going to be here. Okay. So it's great. Heritage and history are something that's really important to me. Mm-hmm. So it's a really easy thing to volunteer for. I'm kind of surprised. I'm not surprised. I'm kind of surprised I didn't volunteer earlier, but having a baby in the last year, I wanted to make sure I could commit before. But it was a blast being on the committee. I loved it. Pretty easy. But so our church 25 years from now, I really pray for our church that we can find a new youth pastor. And I pray for our search committee that they will find someone, but more importantly, find someone who's willing to commit to our church long term. Mm-hmm. We've had 2 wonderful pastors that have filled the role recently, and I respect and loved both of them. And they did such a great job. But I really see a need to have someone who's ready to stay on a more long-term basis. Mm-hmm. I would love that stability for our youth and for our church. Yeah. And side note, I would also love to see Pastor Jerry here in 25 years. I think that would be awesome, and have a little bit more of a legacy like Pastor Fred. I really wish that, and who knows what God's going to bring, but that would just be incredible. Yeah. And then other things I pray for our church in the future is to see more younger people stepping into our leadership and volunteer roles. I see that we could maybe take more specific missions trips, both in our hometown of Bemidji and also outside the U.S. And that obviously we continue to teach and preach God's word straight from the Bible, and that we truly nurture our congregation and really steep them in God. Those are just a few things I can think off the bat. I'm sure there's so many more that we want for our church in the future.
Yeah. And what I hear in you saying, Laura, is more than just, boy, I hope we're still around in 25 years.
Yeah.
But I hope that we're still having the impact that we are, if not a greater impact than we are 25 years from now. And I love your heart for the next generation. And I don't think that's just because you're a parent, but I see that you've been a part of. You were the next generation, and now the next generation is coming. And I really appreciate that about you, Laura, just as getting to know you, that you're a busy parent. You've got a busy life outside of church, and you're here, and not just putting in the hours, but you're serving, you're using your gifts. And it's just clear that you care very much about this church. And I think that rubs off on people. That's an encouragement to me. I think that's an encouragement to a lot of people. It's not just assumed that, Laura's parents were part of this church, so she has to be part of this church.
Sometimes people assume that, though. And I really think if you're a part of the church and you're benefiting from it, you need to give back. God gives you gifts specifically to give back and design. So I really think it's like everyone should be doing it. And that sounds kind of like a no-brainer, but it's hard to get into for some people. Like, how do I fit in? How do I find my role? And we have things like the ministry fair where you can learn how to plug in and really give back. It doesn't have to be like a big flashy thing.
No.
I love it. I think even Pastor Fred in the Friday night was talking about Berta not being a typical pastor wife.
Sure.
You will, like, she like behind the scenes work. And I'm like, hey, there is nothing wrong with behind the scenes work, people.
We need it. We need it. There's so much of that. And to balance that out, I appreciate how you said that just a minute ago you got to be aware of the season of life you're in.
Yeah.
If you've got a newborn in your house, maybe you're not going to be a ministry leader, or you're going to take on a big project at this point. Yep. And yet there's some way that you can use your gifts.
Exactly.
And you think about the season you're in, because we're always going to be busy. We're always going to have something else. Yeah. And we get pulled away for a lot of things. I think just learning who you are and learning how to use your gifts well.
Yeah. And just use in some way be able to give back, to honor God by what he's blessed you with. Yeah. It can be like making a meal for Wednesday night. Like, it takes half an hour. Right. It does not have to be this big flashy thing. And I think that's what I've learned over the years. Yeah. And it's great just to simply, whatever season of life you're in, adapt it.
Yeah. So you don't have to be on a long-standing committee.
Yes.
Yeah. You can just find a way and respond, look in the bulletin, okay, I can do that. I can fill that need. I can do that even short term. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Good. Well, fun to just kind of think back over the last few days. Maybe any other highlight that you just kind of, you think, even just, we did a lot of planning, but boy, I was surprised by that, or that went a lot better than I thought it did, or anything like that.
I mean, now it's Monday, the weekend's gone, and looking back, it all went so fast.
Yeah,
like, I know everyone says kind of stuff like that, but I crashed the Senior Connection lunch on Friday, which, you're supposed to be 55, but come on, it was too good. That Heritage panel but Laura Engelstead said it was fine. And everyone was so great. I came with Andrew and we crashed. It was beautiful. I was so not surprised. I was excited about how great it was. Yeah. Just hearing these people talk about people that I had no idea. This was like Car Lake days. And even, before, talk about Pastor Page, and then they shared photos, but seeing the passion and the excitement in their eyes. And then one of them would start talking about, Miss Sweet, and then another one, I remember her, and they'd kind of feed off of each other. And it was so great to see all these memories coming up, and just the joy and the love. And that was I think that's probably the highlight of my weekend.
Wow.
So.
Yeah. That was a full room. I walked out into the Connection Cafe on Friday morning, afternoon there, and there was a good crowd. And
it was fun.
Yeah. And you could tell that there was real, that is genuine fellowship. That's what it looks like. Yep. And, just an encouragement. So, what a weekend. Maybe we'll try to recover. I certainly don't want to say too much out loud to our musicians, especially that the Advent season is just around the corner, and we've got another busy season. We've got even a big break. Congregational meeting coming up at the end of the month. That's normally a big thing on the calendar that's getting overshadowed by the 100th. Yep. But, well, Laura, one of the things I've done so far on this is kind of change the subject at the end here. We talk a lot here at this church about becoming deeply devoted followers of Jesus together. Mm-hmm. And so I want to ask you, Laura, as we wrap this up, what is one thing that you have been blessed by lately that is deepening your devotion to Jesus?
So again, we talked about season of life and, not having a newborn anymore, but a small child. It's been a little hard to get into spiritually my groove again. Mm-hmm. But so I'm going to kind of cheat and say that it's been this 100th anniversary celebration, because that's just been a big highlight. But seriously, seeing so many of my past mentors and leaders come up, Mick Marino, Kent Barr, Pastor Fred, some of the missionaries come back, and then as well as people that attended the church, back in the 80s, back in the 90s, the 2000s, to see them and all of them still walking with God and fellowshipping with him and in different phases of life themselves. And we're all updating each other. And it was so encouraging. And then hearing the stories of faithfulness in the early days of the church before I was around, that was also a huge blessing. So to see God's hand guide this church through the 100 years, that's really been a blessing.
Yeah. I think a lot of people would echo that, but I'm certainly glad that you were encouraged and filled up by being a part of it, not just the committee, but just being a part of the whole weekend. So, well, Laura, this has been fun. Yes. I think we should do this again sometime. I'll think of maybe another topic that would be just a good one for us to think through.
Sounds good.
I know you're a reader.
I am.
Yes. And maybe you go back to all those. What was the series of courses that Pastor Fred had you go through back?
The Free Church Connection.
Yeah, that's been on my mind and heart to maybe revise and bring that back. So
I need to finish it. I just have a couple, and I think you get this nice little certificate at the end. But by the time I finish it, it'll probably be 20 years in the making. So
it's personal enrichment.
It's great.
What does it matter how long it takes you?
It doesn't. No.
So lots of things we could talk about, but that's probably going to do it for this episode 7 of the Deeply Devoted podcast. Again, thank you to the church family and whoever else is out there listening to this podcast. I hope that you've been blessed by it, and I would love to hear from you even more. Just what would you like to hear us talk about on these different episodes? Maybe different topics or folks in the church that you'd like to hear their story. I'd love to hear some ideas. So you can send those my way. You can reach out to me. You can email me, and we'll get some of those going. But we will do another episode next week. So thanks for listening.